Hi there, I'm Glenn. I'm Glenn Williams. I have to call myself a senior technician engineer in London and been doing that quite a while. And I work for OpenReach. I'm also a peer-to-peer support worker or volunteer. And I'm joined by a good friend here who could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Josh Halpin. I work in the new Sales UK business that's been formed together. So it's taken me a while to get my head around that name. So I'm a operational performance manager within that sort of area. So looking after why things go wrong, why orders fall off happy paths is probably the best way to describe my job. And I've been doing that for just over a year now, but I've been in the business nearly a decade. So it'll be 10 years this year since I joined BT, probably a little bit longer. Um, and I'm based out of London, but I'm a Scouser. So yeah, just to confuse everybody when they hear the accent.
And are you finding what you're doing rewarding? Are you on a strong learning curve at the moment?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I love what I do. I love my team. They're a really good little bunch. There's a team of six of them. Um, and yeah, like I love working with them, developing them. And yeah, the job that I do is sometimes stressful, but you
Mm.
know what? It's rewarding and I do enjoy what I do. It's really good. So
It,
yeah,
it,
wouldn't change it.
it's important to enjoy what you do. Well, thanks for agreeing to join me today, Josh. What this is part of a series of podcasts that I've been doing with peers, other peer-to-peer, because we're the peer-to-peer support network, and we're here as listeners, non-judgmental, confidential. People don't know we exist really, but we could be the colleague sitting next to you. You might be working with us, could be your manager. And we're here really just to listen and we'll signpost people towards any other services that might be helpful to helping people. Because we're talking today about some sensitive subjects, bereavement, baby loss, mental health, but I think we should give warning to people that you may find this distressing. So if you do, then uh, please have our apologies to begin with. So if it's okay, Josh, we'll sort of move into things. Can you give me a little bit of a rundown, a bit of history, how you got to where you are today, and if you need, yeah, a simple question, yeah, how have you got to where you are today, and then we'll talk about the issue that we're here to talk about.
Yeah, I got here in this sort of, I guess, situation. In October, but I think it's been a build up of things throughout the years, right? I've somebody who has struggled with their mental health on and off for a long time, right? And it's been a learning journey, and I think everything's a learning journey to do with mental health. And maybe at times I've not taken it as seriously as I should have. But always had a keen interest in helping others, their mental health, all that sort of stuff, right? And um, for me, it's one of those things where you don't really understand things until you go through them and then you come out the other side and then there's hindsight. And I think that's kind of what brought me through to this point so far is just kind of, yeah, like struggling with mental health, learning how to cope with different things as they've gone through, but having that, I guess, that time with your mental health when things feel unstable in your life, and but never anything too drastic. I've always been kind of very much aware of my own mental state, my own mental well-being, the effect that that has on other people's mental well-being. And yeah, I think it's kind of something that's always been with me. My dad has
That's
always drilled into me from a young child, and I wear this on my arm and my head, and every part of my body is kind of just think about the put yourself in the other person's shoes and think about it from their perspective. So I always had that ability to step back and look around and have that high level view, really, which is kind of I guess brought me to where I am today because at some point along the road I stopped having that high level view,
Mm,
um, and kind of over a period of time wasn't able to self-reflect and self-check, etc., and then ended up in the situation that I did. Um, well, I ended up in two situations really, more than anything, to be honest. So
mm. So did you ever seek help, or did you ever have any counselling, or did you reach out to anybody and friends or colleagues, or did
yeah,
you try to cope with it yourself?
it was probably a mixture of all those things throughout the years, right? So probably at first it was like just sorted out myself. Then I think as I've got older, realized that I can't sort it out myself. So you'd speak to people, and I'm a neurodiverse person, right? So I've got a bit of autism, a bit of OCD, a bit of ADHD, which I'll come to in a little bit in terms of my learning journey about my mental health. And
Thank you
I
for
think,
sharing that.
yes, yeah, yeah, no, I'll definitely share that. And I think as I've gone through my life, I've reached out to at different stages. I've had therapy, I've spoken to colleagues. I had somebody who was head of the neurodiversity network in BT on my team in a previous role, and we would chat.
Mm,
Um, and faith would play a big part in my life in terms of who I am, defining how I react to things.
mm,
Um, and yeah, and then I've also leaned into the EAP service, and they've kind of pointed me through to like rehab works when I struggled with sort of, I guess, sort of anxiety in terms of struggling to do stuff. And yeah, like the solution was really simple that led me to just having a notebook with a to-do list in it, and then it keeps it clear and straight for me. But do you know what I mean? To get to that point led me
mm.
through depression and anxiety and never feeling in control and wanting that level of control and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess kind of like throughout that journey, different people have given me different things. Um, my wife is the person who kind of has said that you are definitely neurodiverse.
Huh.
She was a primary school teacher, so she's used to dealing with children who maybe show indicators of that. And she anecdotally, jokingly said to me once, "I think you are a bit autistic, you know." And I was like, "Oh, I don't." And then she would explain why, and then suddenly everything started to make sense. So I've not had an official diagnosis, so to speak, but it's one of those light bulb moments. As soon as she said
You
it,
exhibit some of the traits of
yes,
autism. Yeah.
yeah. As soon as she said it, it was like, ah, this all now makes sense. Like why I was the way I was when I was younger, and that was a big help for me in my sort of mental health journey to kind of understand
Mm,
who I am. Because I think sometimes mental health journey is about understanding who you are and how you react to that, and it's
mm.
developing that understanding really. So yeah, long-winded answer to yes, I've had loads of help along the way and spoken to different
Yeah.
various peoples with different levels of
Well, it's
support.
important to go through that journey to realize that we've got limits and we've got
Mm,
boundaries and to spot the signals when we're being overwhelmed and things like that, and when we need to reach out for help. You mentioned the EAP, and we've also got the mental health service. Would you say that the business has been very supportive with your
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
mental
yeah.
health?
EAPs or I always find EAP really helpful just for somebody to talk to because they're always there. You know,
Mm,
that's a really important thing. Previous teams that I've managed, I've always signposted EAP um, to anybody who's going through any sort of mental health issues,
mm,
whether they're aware of it or not aware of it, because I think
mm.
it's a really good service to do, and they're really good at kind of pointing you then in the right direction. Um, and yeah, I think, recently discovering that after everything I've been through, discovering the peer-to-peer network, it's also somewhere else that I'd signpost people to as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Because I think we need to be here for each other. So, if you are okay with it, could you just tell us a little bit about you hit a crisis point, I think, when you've got a, I think you've told me already that you've got a young son, is it?
Young
Yeah. You've
daughter,
got a
yeah, I've
young
got a young
daughter
daughter,
who's
yeah.
only 2, but you were
Yeah.
trying for another child, and you had, oh, you had problems, you had difficulties. Would you mind sharing a little bit about what that happened, what happened there?
Yeah, sure, yeah. So I think probably to give the context to it, we we've got a young daughter,
Hmm.
who is an incredible, energetic young girl
Oh,
who's full
lovely.
on all the time. And as you say, Glenn, we were wanting to have a second child. We sort of at some point in this year, around maybe it all blurs into one because it all gets compressed in your head. But I want to say around August,
Hmm.
June time was definitely the moment where I started to go through some serious mental health problems unrelated to kind of trying to conceive a second child, which kind of led me through a bit of a dark time and yeah, like a real low point, so low even that like I contemplated ending my life. It was pretty horrific, and that took a few weeks to kind of work through the process of
Mm.
um and
And this
um
was the pressure of just trying to have a child, is that you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think there was a little bit of that, but I think it was just a culmination of different things, right? They'd all kind of built in that were all kind of, I guess, chipping away, and I
Mm.
don't know if that was kind of the tipping point or something, but it just kind of like, yeah, something, and this was a
Mm.
factor in it.
Mm.
Um and it just kind of led me to this spiral point. And then I went through an episode of getting really intrusive thoughts, um,
Mm.
which were really sort of dark and horrible to go through, which kind of
Mm.
led me to that point where I was like, is life worth living? Should I still be here? And
Mm.
to the point where I kind of in my head had a vision, had a plan of what I was going to do. Um, and
Gosh.
I think where um, I run a football group on a Wednesday with
Mm.
through my church. I organise it, and I went and played, and my church pastor was there, and we talked afterwards, and he
Yeah.
kind of helped me to rationalise the thoughts, because that's where talked about earlier, where I've always been kind of self-aware and able to have a really good like self-reflective view,
Mm.
but I just kind of convince myself that the intrusive thoughts were real,
Mm.
um and that and that there was no point. So yeah, he kind of talked me through, was able to rationalize, and then kind of from that point I went and got some um help within all the midst of that
Mm-hmm.
that darkness that was going on in my life and my wife Jade's life. We
Mm.
discovered that we were pregnant, that we were expecting another child. Completely, we were kind of trying to, but it wasn't planned, but it was planned, if that makes sense. It was one of those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, oh, this light through this really dark time
I
that
see.
kind of held everything together a little bit, in
Mm.
terms of like,
Mm.
something really positive to look forward to. And we so we were obviously delighted, and like I say, in the midst of that, kind of happened in the midst of all the other stuff. And then when I kind of got to the point, when I got talked sort of back from where I was and through my pastor, um it was like, oh, we've got this amazing opportunity that we're going to be blessed with a second child, and we're both deeply religious people. We're really strong Christians, and we were delighted, and like, this is God bringing some light out of the darkness.
Mm.
Really good. We were really happy, really pleased. And then we'd had some complications sort of early on in the pregnancy. So we had complications early on because
Mm.
we'd miscarried at a separate time, maybe a year or so ago.
Oh, I
Um,
see. Oh, that's
and
sad.
but that was really early on, so
Yeah.
it was kind of very different to the situation I'm talking about today.
I'm really sorry
Um,
to hear that. So,
and thank you. And
yeah.
the so because of that, we had some complications early, so we went and got an early scan. So we knew from about 7 weeks that Jade was pregnant. So I was like, oh, this is
Mm.
amazing. And then we had our 12-week scan, which was just, when was that? Sort of August-ish time, I think it was, August, September time. Um, Delighted, excited, all the things that you would be, were able to tell people. that we were pregnant, sort of got my daughter a big sister t-shirt, had a photo of
Oh
her
goodness.
holding the baby scan. So we'd
Mm.
met baby Halpin, right? So it was like this great celebration, and yeah, like we were really pleased, and we were still, I don't know, me and Jade were still working stuff through off what happened earlier on in the year. But yeah, we were in a really strong place, and really delighted. And then we went on holiday as a family, to Peppa Pig World, as you do, and it
All
was kind
down
of like,
Winchester way.
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
down
that's
Winchester Way, lovely. Really, would 10 out of 10 recommend people go there if you've got a young child and able to go. And Jade had some complications then.
oh dear.
And it was kind of like, yeah, the hospital were a bit like, yeah, just come in and we'll just check things out.
Mm.
So we were kind of like, let's just enjoy the rest of the holiday. Freya loves Peppa Pig. Like, we'll just, have a lovely time. So we did. And then we went there and then sort of went on the Monday. And then it was kind of um, this check. And then the doctor does a doctor thing that was not very reassuring, which was, I've booked you a scan for tomorrow. Didn't give any more detail. Didn't really say like what was going on or what had happened or what they'd found. Just kind of left it at that. And Jade was sort of asked the question of, is the baby okay? And then the answer came back of, just come for the scan tomorrow. So
Oh
then you go
gosh.
through the whole,
So you were
it,
in a bit of limbo, in a holding pattern,
yes,
which must have been agonizing in itself.
yeah. Oh, it was horrendous because
Mm.
you go through this journey of everything is not okay to something had happened. We'd had a similar complication earlier on
Mm.
in the pregnancy,
Mm.
and that was fine. So we went
Mm.
from it's not okay, tears, what do we do, praying about it, to no, we're going to be okay because last
Yeah.
time was much worse than this time, albeit we didn't go get checked then because we were told not to.
Mm.
So and then you sort of, yeah, I think it was a Monday morning. We sort of woke up and we went and got to have the scan, and we were kind of both in this place of not 100% sure, but we think everything's going to be okay.
Mm.
Um, and I remember sitting in that room, you're sort of like that nervousness between you both. And I remember scanning, and the way the room is set up, I can still remember it really vividly. Sort of, um, I could see the screen with baby helping on. Jade couldn't see anything because they didn't have a second screen for her to be able to see it. And in some
Mm.
respects, I'm quite glad that they didn't, because I think I knew before Jade did. I think we both
Mm.
knew that something was wrong with baby,
Mm.
but the scan that the lady was doing on the baby, because we'd been through it with Freya, I kind of knew what they were looking for, like looking for,
Yeah.
and it was just, normally if it's like a heat signature, it comes up red or yellow or whatever, and it was just coming back blue. And at
Oh
that
gosh.
point, you just thought, and then the lady was like, unfortunately, I've got to get a second opinion, but you've lost the baby.
Oh dear.
Um, and you go through this. Yeah, you feel like in that moment time
Mm.
just stopped, and it was like,
Absolutely.
what has happened? How did this happen?
Yeah.
And this was 17 weeks, so we'd had the joy of everybody knowing for 5 weeks. You feel like you're at a point where you can start to plan things. So it's like, right, we'll move Freya into the front room, the
Yeah.
back room would be the nursery.
Oh God.
We made plans for Jade to leave her job in March. We'd made, well, all these different sort of things within that sort of 5 week period. We'd sort of planned out the next phase of our life, really.
Well, it's
Um,
something you would do. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
not not a bad thing to do. And yeah, within 48 hours, it all came sort of tumbling down around
Oh
us.
goodness. Yeah.
Um, and
So
yeah,
did
it
you
was tough.
feel like your world fell apart at that point? And how did that affect you and your wife
Yeah,
and maybe even your little one? So,
I think we were blessed that Fred didn't really understand. I think
mm.
that's a nice thing. And the hospital that we were at were brilliant and were fantastic,
Mm.
with their support and their help. Um, in terms of, yeah, it felt like the whole world had just crumbled around us. We
Oh
felt
gosh.
alone because nobody talks about sort of baby loss. Nobody really,
Mm,
you feel very alone in that moment that it's only you and me and Jade going
yeah,
through that. And
it's
it was, yeah, it
completely
was horrific.
understandable. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because it's one of those things where you sit there and think like, what do we do? How do we act? Because you don't know, like,
No.
if you lose your parents or some, you can sort of talk to somebody about that because
Mm,
unfortunately everybody loses their parent and it's something that, we
in a
all
way,
we all talk through, yeah.
yeah.
Um
But
and
baby loss is not something you can prepare for. And as you say, we don't talk about it, because it's painful and we don't want to
yeah,
hurt people. So, how how did you get through those early days? And did you, I think you said something about feeling alone. How did you support each other, or did something else happen?
yeah, I can probably I'll try and condense the next week because it didn't just
No.
start and end with the scan, and it was kind of like the next phase was then for because the baby was 17 weeks old,
Mm.
Jade then had to pass the baby. She had
Oh,
to go through this process of take a tablet, and you
oh
almost
gosh.
kind of just,
How
for
awful.
both of us, flicked
Yeah.
the switch, and it was just like, I need to support Jade
Yeah.
because she's going through this thing.
Yeah.
Jade goes into sort of a mode of, I just want to pass this baby, and then,
Oh, poor
you
thing.
know, get your head in that space.
Mm.
We both talked about right from the off, you know, not right from the off, but within the sort of like
Mm.
within a day or so, we sat down and we said to each other, like, you grieve how you're gonna grieve, and I'll grieve how I grieve, because we would both grieve differently. And I was
Mm.
also on some medication for my head,
Mm.
which kind of uh, sort of balanced me out a little bit. So maybe I wasn't emotional as I thought I would be or should be.
Mm.
So, and then, yeah, and then so sort of you go through this process, and unfortunately, all of this was happening in Baby Loss Awareness Week. So, the 10th of October is the day that that we lost baby Halpin, so to speak, in terms of, it was no longer a part of Jade,
Oh,
and it was it was really hard because you didn't know what to feel.
no,
You, I refer to it as, I loved someone that I never met, never got the chance to meet,
I can
and I
understand that.
love
Mm.
them with all my heart because they were this light in this really dark time for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so it was, as the message came out, um, and we kind of shared, because like I was meant to be playing football on the Wednesday and stuff like this,
Mm.
and I normally organize it, and people stepped in to support. People came forward and were like,
Mm.
you know, we've been through what you've been through, and
Oh, I
we've been
see.
through what you've been through, and more people were saying it, and then like you started to kind of share a little bit more, and it was like, yeah, more
Mm.
people, unfortunately, horrifically, horribly, more people have been through this than we thought. We weren't alone. We were
No.
able to have these conversations with people and able to go for a walk or go and talk to somebody over a cup of
Mm.
coffee. And it was important for Jay to have that, but then also for me, as I've realized now, to have that ability to have somebody to
Mm.
talk to, because you're not alone in all of this. There are, like I say, unfortunately, people who have gone through this, and it's having that support was massive for us as a couple, to be able
So,
to kind of process it and start that journey, because yeah, it is a journey. It is a journey to go
okay.
through that.
So there was a time, I think you said, where you definitely were both lonely, even though
Yeah.
you were together. You went through a sort of, well, it was grieving, and but then did the hospital suggest you there was anywhere where you could go for help, support, or did you manage to find that yourself and Jade as well? So was there any automatic support that was suggested, or did you have to seek it out yourself?
No, there was so the hospital were really good.
Mm,
They put us in touch with a charity group called Petals. So we've done some counselling sessions with them, which has been really good. More so to, pardon me, for Jade to be able to talk about it because
mm,
she goes through a lot more of the emotions that, was it my body?
um,
Was it something I ate? Was it something I did? Was it this? Was it that? But then also for me as the
but
man, because
she's lost a baby. You have to,
yeah, exactly. She's lost the
so
baby, so it's
it's
kind
got
of like, did
everything.
I
Yeah.
do something to cause it? Do you know what I mean?
Oh
She's got
no,
all these questions which are legitimate questions, right?
I guess. Yeah.
And she needed a space to work that out. And then as for
Mm,
me, it was important to have somebody to talk to because I literally it wasn't my body.
mm,
It didn't physically happen to me.
no.
I just lost someone I've never met. I lost baby Halpin,
Mm,
and all I've got is the scan photo of this baby. That's the
oh,
only image I've got. So it's kind of like this, how does this all work? How does this all fit together?
yeah.
What goes on, etc., etc. And yeah, I think yeah, the hospital were really good.
Mm,
Work were fantastic. My boss was brilliant. She
that's
signposted the
really
EAP.
that helps.
I couldn't praise her enough for all the help and support that she
Mm.
she gave at a really, really difficult time. Um,
How
and
did
so
the
yeah,
EAP help? What was that? Was that
yeah, I
talking
spoke to
therapy or?
yeah, I spoke to EAP a little bit,
Mm,
more just kind of like a one-off session, really,
yeah,
just to speak to somebody. But in the place that we were at, I just flicked into, I need to help Jade. I need to be there for
got
Jade,
it. Yeah.
support
That.
her. And it's a process that you go through,
Mm,
and um, Jade would have good days and bad days. I would have good
mm,
days and bad days, and my
yeah.
job was to just help help Jade out because we have a 2-year-old, right? She does
Yeah.
not understand what's happened. The
No.
world for her keeps going. Our
You've still
church and
got to
our
keep
families were
life.
good
You've got to keep
supports
your
as well.
family together and support your You're still
Yeah.
parents, and that doesn't change. So so what would have been what would you recreate that didn't exist at the time? Um,
Yeah, good question.
or would you? Is there something you think you could help create today that might help?
Yeah, I think one thing I learned really quickly, and it's something that my um sister-in-law kind of said to me. She came round for the first time to see Jade and I, and she said, "How?" She looked at me. She said, "How are you doing?" Because
Yeah.
men always seem to be forgotten about, and that's not to
No.
diminish the role of it. Do you know what I mean? That's the
No.
absolutely the focus should 100% be
Forget
on
that. Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah,
woman going
absolutely.
through it, but also the man. You have all these emotions going through. Like, what do I do? How do I process it? It wasn't my body.
Mm,
I love someone I've never met. How does this
yeah.
work? I don't know. I've loved the tangible thing. It's all these things go on in your head,
Mm,
right? And I think for me, sadly, sort of 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, some of the lads in the football group were aware of what happened to Jade and I, and sadly, a
mm.
couple of them went through near enough the same situation that Jade and I went through, and
Oh,
immediately,
that's sad.
I'm the
Mm,
type of person who was like, I need to help them. So even like I was there, I would just text them, see how they're doing, and then before football one night, one of them and one of the guys and I spent maybe sort of 5-10 minutes chatting about kind of the
mm.
situation that him and his partner were going through, and they've also got a little and already, so it was kind of like we were able to kind of share
Got it.
this experience with each other, and then it dawned on me, I was like, I don't know if there's anything out there to support men, like a
Mm,
men supporting baby loss type situation.
mm.
And for me, I would love to be able to kind of bring a community together of people who are just able to of men who can support each other. Again,
Yeah.
it's not to diminish the support or the role of women. It's just to kind of highlight that,
No,
men are not very good at talking about their mental health.
I
Men
agree.
And this is a thing that's really hard to understand. The bit before, all the stuff that I went through, all the horrible stuff I went through,
Yeah.
most people can understand it. Anxiety, sort of depression, unwell mental health, but baby loss for men, it,
Mm.
it doesn't. it's really hard to convey. You don't know how to feel, and the only way you can do that, I've found, is by talking. So if I knew,
Absolutely.
I've learned through the dark period that I went through, which was horrific before, during the early stages of the pregnancy,
Mm,
talking is the only way to really help, whether that be with professionals, GPs, therapists,
yeah,
whatever, friends, but just talking to somebody, because whatever's going on in your head,
yeah.
nobody will judge you for that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
No.
people are there to support and help, and I think for
Mm,
me, yeah, having something that was there for that is there and can be there for men going forward in
yeah,
terms of a men's support and baby loss is kind of what I would love to. I want something good to come out of this
yeah.
situation.
So you're ultimately you're a natural peer anyway, or a peer support volunteer, and it's
Mhm.
what the basis of the peer-to-peer network is. Most of us have been through difficulties, maybe our own mental health issues, or we've witnessed them, and the pain that we've felt, we try to turn it into something that informs us and helps us, and then we use the knowledge that we've gained and the experience we've gained to try and help other people. And so, have you spoken to anybody else about creating a group? So you're within, you've got friends who you play football with, and I think you said that was linked to your church. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
yeah.
And you've got these friends who you've helped each other. Would that be a place to start, do you think? Or what do you think? What did you do you think you could maybe start this idea? Because I've just come off a call about
Mhm.
Andy's Man Club, and it's basically to help people who have suffered bereavement and are going through grief, and because men don't talk enough about their grief and about their emotions. But I think we're getting better at it, and we're learning that you do need to reach out before things get too
Mhm.
too difficult to cope with. So, are you thinking about maybe starting something up, or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm really keen to start something up, whether that be
hmm,
external to BT or internal to BT.
yeah,
I think for me, I've spoken to Graham, who runs the peer-to-peer,
yeah,
and to Stevie Kilmeister as well from the Gender Equality Network, and we kind of
wouldn't
had
that
a
be great?
discussion around where this group can fit. For me, it's just about creating a safe space
Yeah,
for men to share their experiences with each other, and for people to be able to signpost somebody
yeah,
who unfortunately goes through baby loss to say, there's a men supporting baby loss group. Go
yeah,
and have a chat with them.
yeah,
They meet once a month, whatever it may be, whatever it looks like,
yeah.
that's to be decided. But what I'm really keen to do is have somewhere where people can be signposted to or join to say, I've been through this, I'm going through this, I don't know what to feel. And for
Mm,
others to share their experience to say it's okay for the way to feel, and even if they're local to each other, I'm a Scouser based in London, if somebody's in the London office and wanted to go for a coffee and discuss it, then I'd happily do that. Do you know what I mean? It's really important that we talk to each other and share. And at the minute as well, like, I'm running 17 miles every month in memory of baby Halpin. I've set
yeah.
myself a really crazy goal of, by the time Baby Loss Awareness Week comes out, or happens in October, I want to run 17 miles every single day of that week. My wife thinks I'm
Oh,
crazy. So,
no.
but yeah, that's the plan. That's what I would like to do.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. It's very honourable ambition. I think it's one of those things that what is it? You build it and they will come.
Yeah.
It is needed. You know it's needed because you needed it, and there are bound to be people who will respond to this. So this is as good a starting place as any. You put yourself out there, and it's a very good chance. And I've done a few of these, and you'll have a few people who this will resonate with, and they'll contact you. And that's kind of how you start it. You start it with one or two people, and you build a little group and a little network, and you'll have new ideas. I love the idea of using activity, so healthy distractions. I think it's a great idea. I'm going to be talking to somebody else soon about yoga, how they use yoga to help ameliorate the medical conditions and also mental health. So I think it's a great thing. It's a great ambition. I think uh, I always just say, just do it because yeah, nothing, no harm can come from it.
Yeah.
So I suppose we should think about wrapping up. Thank you so much for sharing everything. It is a particularly uh, difficult topic to talk about. So, thank you for being so sharing. What do you think the future holds? Or what would you like it to hold? Yeah, so with family and uh, possibly work or anything else, how do you see the future going, or how would you like it to go?
Um, I
Tough
think
question.
I'd, I think, I'd continue. I want to kind of set this thing up, whatever it may be, even if it's just a handful of men. I think that's important for me to do this year. And I think, yeah, I think for Jade and I, we're in a really good place. Despite everything that's gone on, our faith's played a massive part in that. We both firmly believe that we're going to meet sort of baby helping in heaven, and
That's a lovely thing. Yeah,
we yeah we just I want to continue to share the message of what's happened and show that there is support out there, and yeah, we'll just see what happens. We'll go with it and see where we
lovely.
end up.
And I wanted to ask you one last question. How has your faith helped you?
Massively, I think knowing that we will see baby
Mm,
helping, and there's
mm,
no question of doubt in either of our minds, in conversations that we've had with our pastor, etc., who was a real big support. Um,
mm,
and I know different people have different versions of what they believe in and stuff like
yeah,
that, but you know, my faith's kept me alive by having a pastor who I could meet through a football group on a
yeah,
Wednesday night, when I was really, really low. And then we had a church family who helped us when we were really struggling with the baby loss, and they
yeah.
cooked meals for us. And I was sick of shepherd's pie at one point, but it's fine. And I think our faith played a massive part in who we are and what we and how we've reacted to it, because we have a hope, right? And that's what our faith does. It gives us a hope that we know, or certainty that we know where we're going when we die, and
Yeah,
that we'll see baby helping, and that yeah, that it can be the bedrock. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying
yeah.
that life is rosy, because it's not. Look what I've
No,
just explained on this call, but
life
it
is a
was,
journey, and there's going to be
yeah,
some highs and lows, and we're going to step off the path and
yeah,
stumble at times. But well,
yeah.
if we keep soldiering on,
Yeah,
we'll
and I
get there.
think, it's not about how you start or anything like that in your faith.
No,
It's how you finish and what you do in the hard times, and how we were able to trust and turn to God. We didn't
yeah,
understand why. We asked all the same
no,
questions that most people would. Why have you done this, God? Why have you taken away
mm,
this ray of light in this really dark time? Why would you do this? But we just know that it will work to good. And it might be
mm,
because I'm able to set up a men's group, or I was
yeah,
able to help support those lads in
yeah.
the football group. So yeah, there's
That's
always,
perfect.
that's one of the things with my faith that's kind of helped. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm always interested to find where people find their strength, and I
Mm,
get a different answer from different people. Some people, I think for me, I lost a brother through mental ill health before he was 21, and I get strength from him wanting
mm,
to live the life that I think that he would have wanted to live if he was still here. So he's my inspiration, even though he's
yeah.
not here. And I think you have to find strength in friends, family, work colleagues, sometimes strangers, weirdly enough. And so yeah, I think that's uh that's where we have to look. So, Josh, thank you so much. It's
No, thank
been
you.
really enlightening for me. I will do anything that I can to help make sure that what you're hoping to bring about comes about. Um, it's been really brilliant today. I hope it's been okay for you. Hope it's not been too emotional, you know.
No, thank
So,
you.
you know, and yeah, I think that message is go out there if you need help, try and find it, you know, and sometimes the person you need might be sitting right next to you.
Yeah.
So it's great. So thanks for today. Thanks for everything. And yeah, we'll be in touch soon. And take care and give all the people you love a hug. So
Cheers. Thanks, Glenn.
thanks very much. Take care.